Welcome to Real Estate Success DFW, the podcast where top producing agents from Dallas-Fort Worth come together to share their stories and strategies behind their success. I'm Shaune Corbett, your host, and with over 300 million sold in the local real estate market and the honor of being best at the multiple times, I know what it takes to make it in this market. Each episode, we're going to dive into the world of real estate, learning from the very best in the industry. If you're ready to level up your game, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Hey everyone, I've got a superstar, Art Vales, with me today, and we are going to be talking about his market and how he's had success working he's worked in Killeen, he's worked in Houston, he's got a couple markets that he's worked in, but I wanted to have him kind of talk about his story and where he's come from, and we're gonna be real nice to him. He hasn't done a lot of podcasts yet, so this is going to be a great new experience for him. So, hey, Art, how are you, man?
I'm good, sir. How are you?
Above average here. So a lot of the people that I talk to typically are in the Dallas-Fort Worth market. Mm-hmm. Fortunately, selling houses, especially in Texas, isn't going to be a whole lot different. Mm-hmm. I think where you're at, you have maybe some different types of people that you work with that have different purposes, but for the most part, obviously, we're using the same license. We can operate in different areas in Texas. So let's first talk about the market that you're working in today. That would be a great place to start. So where's your focus right now?
Okay, so I'm down here in Central Texas, and I help everyone, sellers, buyers, investors. It's definitely, I'm in Central Texas. A lot of people love to watch the HGTV shows, and I've had some investors, and so it's not all flip and flop, and Chip and Joanna are not coming down from Waco.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt. Yeah. I can relate with you. I've done about 100 flips in Dallas-Fort Worth. Mm-hmm. I've done a lot of the ugly ones, and they did not work the way they told me they would in HGTV for sure.
Right. What's good is this. My goal is to make sure everyone has a house, and whenever I deal with people, for example, if you approach me and say, hey, Art, I want to buy a house, and this is what I want to do. And I'll ask you point blank, okay, do you have patience? And right in the middle, say, yeah, I'm a patient individual. Good, because you're going to need it. Because it's not like you see on TV. That's reality TV. What I deal with is reality. So
yes. Yeah.
And what's good is I'm very blunt, direct with people. I tell them this, I can either, blow smoke or shoot straight from the hip. And everyone always asks me to shoot straight from the hip. And I know they're going to say that, but I want them to say it so that when I give them the honest facts, this is exactly what's going on. And I'm pretty good about what I say as far as what I think a house will sell for or rent for.
I like that you talk about that. I just had a really good training talking about asking the right questions. And one of the questions it recommends asking is, how honest do you want me to be with you? Now, it's a rhetorical question. Now, you're obviously not going to tell me to lie to you, but I want to set that tone. And yes, the tone is, you're going to say it's okay for me to be honest, mm-hmm. right? You're going to tell me you want a 9 or a 10. You want me to be as honest as I need to be, and let's not just spin around in circles, wasting each other's time. Let's just get to it. I can list your house $20,000 over the market, but we both know it's going to sit for 6 months and you're going to yell at me. Mm-hmm. How about we just go ahead and price it where it's going to sell, and then everybody feels happy about how it worked out, right?
Yes, sir. Exactly.
A very good point. I like that you can be honest and get that straight with them up front. Just say, hey, I don't want to spend a lot of time giving you fluff. Let's just talk about how to get this done, and then mm-hmm. we can go hang out at the butcher shop and get some meat and go grill. We can have fun later, but it's business time. I want to make sure I get you taken care of first.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, what was that? The movie Tommy Boy?
Oh yeah, I love Tommy Boy.
The scene with his dad always getting that bit of advice.
Yeah, the bull and the butcher. Yeah. Exactly. Oh yeah. And he could never say that phrase right.
Yeah, that's exactly what I think about when I talk to people.
Okay. I like that reference. You and I are going to get along great.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Oh man, I love that guy. He's so funny. I miss Tommy Boy. Farley. I miss Chris Farley. All right, so let's go back. When you got started in real estate, why would anyone get started in real estate? Why would you get started in real estate?
Okay, my mother, God rest her soul, said this one thing to me, which as a kid in middle school, I didn't understand it. Buy land, they're not making it anymore. And I was like, Mom, what does that mean? Now I know. So the thing is this, you and I both know we're not getting any younger. And it's always good to be able to have your own roof over your head so that no one's ever going to come knocking on your door. Hey, I need my rent. Or, hey, get out of my house. So I like real estate. I like taking properties that I like taking like making diamonds shine. I've seen some very rough houses, but by the time I go in there and get everything done, it's complete 180. And I now know that another family is going to now has a roof over their head. Because I want everyone to have a roof over their head. It's okay for me to get you into a house, but I want to make sure that you can stay in that house. I don't want you to bite off more than you can chew.
It's a personal mission for you to help people do things that they need some help. They need some guidelines. They need some direction. And give them the opportunity where many may not help them or be able to give them those opportunities. And you can also talk about the importance of having that emotional benefit of owning a home versus just paying a landlord forever.
Yes, sir.
You know, and having your own dirt. And I've heard that. I'm sure a lot of us have heard they don't make any more land. Unfortunately, God only provided us so much land than we can work with. So we got to take care of what we got available.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
I like the personal attention to it. So you mentioned, you were talking about, you work with investors, and you certainly may work with new home buyers that are buying in that sub price point, maybe 250, maybe 200 in your market. And that's the home that needs work.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And it might be even lower. As you, like your Killeen, is that kind of like one of your?
Yes. So Central Texas encompasses Killeen, Harker Heights, Temple. I'm in Bell County. So depending on what the buyer wants, we're going to try and find them the right house.
Yeah.
For example, you say, I want to buy a house. Not a problem. How much house do you want to spend? Do you want a house that's $250 or $100,000, $300,000 or $10,000? And I tell them point blank, is this house for you to live in or as an investment? Okay, because number one, if it's an investment, we want to make sure that you are providing a good home that not only that you would live in, but you'd be okay with having a family member live in. Because if you wouldn't put your dearest family member in that house, then what's the point of dealing with that house? Yeah. You know, and also the price point. Okay, once we say, hey, are you paying cash or financing? Cash, $200,000. Great, let's go find you something. Financing, $200,000. Great, let's go find you something. But at the same time, though, just because your financing or pre-qual letter is $200 doesn't mean we need to go find a house that's $200. Because you got to make sure once you buy that house, can you afford these payments?
Sure. I always think everything's always about monthly payment. Everything.
Yes, sir.
Unfortunately, we've got some clever tools with buy downs and builders offering incredibly good low interest rates that we can help people achieve more house than they could have even 6 months ago, a year ago, based on the strategies using that. Where
Yes,
I was
sir.
thinking about is, do you have contractors and people that you help renovate homes? Is that, because you're kind of alluding to that, like you've also got into the vault where we have a home that needs a new kitchen, it needs new bathrooms, needs new floors. No problem, I got you. Is that kind of another thing that you offer as a benefit to help?
Yes, sir. So what's good is this. Every time someone buys a house from me, I already have a Word document ready that I can email them like that has a list of all the contractors that they're ever going to need for that house, whether it's plumbing, electrical, HVAC, or just little odds and ends. You know, say, hey, call this person. And these are all individuals that I've done business with myself, so I can actually vouch for said individual. And so they'll have that information, and then they can reach out. And of course, I tell them this, even after you bought the house, I'm still a phone call away. I don't just disappear once you bought your house. You know, I don't just like become a ghost.
I feel like forgive me for using your name, but we've lost the art of providing full service, right? So a lot of the buyer agents and seller agents or listing agents, they focus on the service part of it. But man, I tell you, if there's one thing we can do as agents is provide other avenues of contractors and in a bigger scope. We don't have to know about plumbing. We don't have to know about electrical. We don't have to know about roofing. But by golly, we should at least be able to offer people that do and can say, hey, Art told me to call you. And now that guy has accountability. Right?
Right.
There's always that benefit. And that's a strength that we have as agents is we know we deal with housing. This is what we deal with. So we know good contractors that are going to do what they say they're going to do and make us look good. It's a real important component, be able to leverage your name and go get good work done when they need to get it done. That's a really valuable asset that you offer. So you've taken this message that you've started with your with kind of your mom looking at it, they don't make enough land. And then now you've turned into a personal mission when you work with your clients on helping them achieve things. I tell you, it's funny. A lot of people did not think they could achieve. Let me give you a high level thinking. I kind of think about these things a lot. So we have a group probably from 25 to 35. A lot of them were not buying homes. They were renting. They were not getting married. They were not having kids. They would rather have a dog than kids. It's a strange thing maybe for you and I to see that and say, well, we're here on earth not to just serve ourselves. I mean, let's help and build other people. And they were kind of skipping that process of going straight in and buying homes early or getting married in their 20s or getting married later.
Yes.
So we have this whole group that's missed a lot of that. And I think it's great that now we have a new generation coming up and a lot of them are starting to buy now. They're not afraid of the 30% increased prices since COVID, right? There's that magic thing where all of it exploded, or they don't know anything about a 3% interest rate because they're finally farther enough removed from it that they don't even think about it. They just know, okay, interest rate's 7% or 6%. Yeah. That's what it is. You know, this is what I can afford. I finally am getting to that point where those clients are starting to do that. So things have been turning around. I know for us here in Dallas-Fort Worth, how do you feel like the market's been moving for you based on where everyone, 2 years ago, oh my gosh, prices are too high. Oh my gosh, interest rates are too high. I feel like we're finally getting a little bit of reprieve. How are you feeling?
I do agree with that statement. What I've been noticing is, of course, a lot of people were waiting for the interest rates to come down for a little bit. And I think that was kind of a mental block. And what I've noticed is that people either want houses that are either really cheap or really pretty. And what's funny is when someone contacts me, they'll tell me point blank, hey, I'm an investor or I want to live here. That way I know exactly which direction to guide them. Because not only am I a realtor, I'm also an investor as well. So I have both hats that I can wear. And I can look at it from two sets of eyes. Now, what's good is this. I see the market every day. I get the emails. And I'll see houses that are on the market, then go back off and on the market. And depending on the house in particular, there's a lot of reasons why. If the house is really old, there may have been some issues with the house. If the house looks newer, it may have been got a bit something happened for the buyer and life got in the way. I mean, houses are still selling, people are still buying. It's just trying to find that happy medium, because I can show you houses that are the exact same cookie cutter build, but because they're in one area of the same city, they may have a $5,000 to $10,000 price to so.
No, I feel you. And I always like to have that conversation. Are you looking for a deal or a home?
Right.
And I do this to buyer agents that make lowball offers to me on houses that I have listed. I said, hey, I don't list high. So you're just make sure your buyer is aware they're looking for a deal, not a home. Yeah. And I always put things in perspective. I said, no offense. I don't take offense from it. I buy lots of property. It doesn't bother me, but let's make sure we understand what our purpose is. And I have a retail home buyer offering considerably below my list. I said, well, I just don't think they have the right home. I usually I'll tell a buyer agent, I said, hey, you know what? Your guy just doesn't have the right home.
Right.
You got to work on it. Either they're not motivated or they're really needing a deal, not a home. And this isn't the right one for them. And I'll say things kind of in that fun way. And we're also talking about exit strategy, right? So when we're selling, and I think this is part of your view in your conversation with your clients, like, hey, let's talk about the exit strategy, right? It can be that your emotional interest in buying in that neighborhood at this space because your family's there, because you grew up there, whatever it is, just know that long-term, there are better areas for appreciation, and that may not be a concern for you. The emotional benefit of owning a home, it will supersede the benefit of it selling for another $10,000 or $20,000 in 5 to 7 years. Mm-hmm. I always like to try to make sure that's a part of the conversation as well. And I think that's part of your encompassing view. So we could find you a deal, but we're going to know that it may not agree with what your personal emotional purpose is, of owning a really nice home. I love all that. Do you
also, Shaune,
primarily? Oh, go ahead.
Also, what I do also when I deal with the buyers, if they're a first-time buyer, I ask them point blank, do you have anyone, either friend or family, that's bought a home? If they tell me yes or no, I love if they tell me yes. I say, great. That way, everything I'm telling you, you can talk to that person who's already gone through the experience. Trust, but verify. Yeah. That way, if you have questions, because I know when I explain it to you, if they don't understand every little thing, talk to the person, talk to your brother, cousin, whomever that bought a home. Say, hey, and they say, hey, Art told me I should get a home inspection for X, Y, and Z. What do you think? And then they'll say, yeah, I got one. This is the reason why.
I like that, Art. That's clever. I've actually not thought about having someone else validate what you're sharing, especially if you're working with a cold client that you don't have a relationship or was not a referral.
Yes, sir.
It's good to say, hey, I want you to know that I've got your interest at heart, but if you find someone that's been in this situation before and have them correspond with the things that I'm saying, so that way you understand that this is a kind of part of the process. We're not just throwing $500 away.
Yeah, exactly.
We're investing as a really cheap insurance policy to know if we should be moving forward or not.
Exactly. Yes, sir.
So I love that too. So you work primarily with buyers. I think I did check on there. You've had some listings as well. Is that
Yes,
correct?
sir.
You got a couple of them right now?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Okay.
So buyers and sellers, one of the listings is a foreclosure. It's a nice house. It needs a little TLC, but the benefits are amazing. This house would be a good home for anyone to live in, or if an investor want to try and buy it and flip it, there's money to be made there.
So how did you get a foreclosure by chance? The bank? How did you end up with that one?
So what it is, the brokerage I work with, it's called Villa Home, and we're under the Carrington Mortgage umbrella. And this was one of their foreclosures. And what's good is this, by me being an investor, I look at the local foreclosure listings every month, see what's going out there. And I'll look at to see who the mortgager was. And say, okay, I see that person, and if I see Carrington's name, I say, okay, that one's going to foreclosure auction. And if it doesn't sell at the foreclosure auction, a lot of times they'll probably come to me to list it as a foreclosure on the market.
Art, you've got a marketable opportunity with you and your experience and having that conversation with buyers that want to discuss buying and adding value to the property. It's one to flip it, it's one to rent it out. But most buyers, they walk into a property, and you'll know this in experience, when they walk into a property and you look at it, it's about $50,000 to rehab, right?
Mm-hmm.
They look at it, they think it's $100,000.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'll give you another, they're good at guessing 10,000. They're good at guessing 20, but when you get to about 40, 50, they're way off because they can't see what really needs to happen. At some point, the economy of scale kicks in. And when I have to do the living room floors, it's not much more to do the whole house. And you realize that the economy of scale kind of starts benefiting you at some point when you just do the entire house in paint. Because you can tape off the entire thing, get everything out of there. You don't care if the floors get ruined because you're going to redo all the floors afterwards.
Right.
And you can really move real quick and get an economy of scale benefit there. So that's a really good value add talking to buyers. I bet there's some clever ways you could create some video content to talk them through how to evaluate a property and then make those decisions on the purchase based on the work it needs, right? In your business, have you flipped houses then?
Yes, sir, I have.
Okay. And you've got percentage of ARV and you know the technical terms. Again, I've done over 100 and I've moved out of doing that. Now I work with investors. I lend money. I find them homes. I do everything else. I just don't do it myself anymore. I do it as a liaison or as an investor consultant. So you know the numbers and the percentages. Now, retail doesn't need to operate at 70, 80%, right?
Right.
You can operate it, and you're probably not on the MLS. You're probably going to offer it at 90 to 92%. It's real tight. But think about, even at 90%, they just gain 10% equity when they're done. That's a big win. So there's some really cool things that you already know. And having those conversations, you can walk them through and really evaluate. I got pretty good at niching certain neighborhoods that I know are floating in those percentages. And then I have investor clients. I say, hey, let's go and take a look at them. And I already know my rent values on them. I said, hey, we just need 20 grand.
Right.
And I can get you now you can't do 1% rules anymore. Unfortunately, rents have not followed values, but you can still gain 5% equity every year as growth. And the 5% equity is 3% appreciation and 2% principal buy down paid by the tenant.
Right.
So there's some really clever things that we can do to help explode that. I love all that. That's very cool. How do you manage your time? I mean, let's talk a little personal stuff. You got family. What do you have going on?
So I got my girlfriend and I have 2 dogs and a cat, and they're all rescue animals.
Nice.
And what's good is this, earlier you heard the dogs barking. Yep. Of course, the smallest dog is always the loudest dog.
Oh, yeah.
So the thing is, I set boundaries. So, for example, I usually get up around 3:30, 4 a.m. myself. I walk my neighborhood, probably walk like 9 miles a day before 9 a.m. And then from 9 to 5, I'm rocking and rolling, doing everything that came with real estate. Now, sometimes, depending on what's going on, I may cut it back to about 4. That way I can take my dog to the dog park. They socialize with other dogs. There's other people there. And that's how I clear my head. And then, of course, movies, going to play pool, spend time with friends and family. Just last weekend, we went to a haunted house. And it's like this. I enjoy seeing people get scared. And I was laughing so hard, I almost couldn't breathe. I couldn't catch my breath because the guy had a chainsaw and he's chasing people down. They wouldn't get hurt. But the fact they were running and afraid, I was just laughing from ear to ear. And guess what? I had a good time. Everyone's having a good time. That's all that matters. Life's short. Enjoy yourself.
I like that you have boundaries on your time.
Yes, you have to.
I remember early on in my real estate career, I just about got divorced because my wife was like, you never stop working. And I didn't see myself that way. I'm like, because I like working so much, I don't ever know how to turn it off. And I don't realize the benefit of walking 9 miles or clearing my head or doing things with friends and leisure opportunities. I love to talk about real estate all day, 24/7. Unfortunately, you're not building other things that are also important.
Right.
And it's good to stop and just think instead of, I got to do this deal. I got to do this deal. I got to offer this to them. I got to help them with this. It's good to stop because you can, when you clear your mind, you can really get a better idea of maybe where you should be going and not spending so much time in things that don't either make you money or are just not good for you're lacking connection with others. So I love that you have time blocking. I moved about 7-8 years ago to, I don't work weekends and evenings. Now that's a tough thing to do in real estate.
Yeah, it is. But you have to have mental peace because if you don't, it's like this. Okay, Shaune, if you don't take care of you, who will?
It's true.
Because if I'm walking and I fall down, what's going to happen? They're just going to step over me. So I got to make sure that my mental health is clear. Everyone has to take care of their own mental health because what's funny is this, whoever I'm talking to, man, woman, buyer, investor, what have you, I said, listen, you are the star player on your team. The one person that you have to look out for is the person that you see in the mirror every single day. And if you don't, no one else will.
No, I feel you. Yeah, it was having 4 kids really changed my perspective on where my time is spent. So I work incredibly hard during the short hours that I work Monday through Friday.
Yes, sir.
And I give all the extra time and weekend and time and everything. I've moved to a referral-based business where only people that know me work with me.
Mm-hmm.
And what that does is I don't have a listing presentation. I don't have a buyer presentation. They call me and I tell them what we're going to do to solve their real estate problem.
Right.
That's my conversations. Typically, I just focus around motivation and what's their issue they need to solve.
Mm-hmm.
I keep things really simple.
Yes, sir.
That's a big value add for just growing my business. But by doing that, I work with people. We all like to work with people we trust and respect. How are you referring contractors? What you're doing with them, your client should be doing with you.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's a big part of building that referral-based business where you don't have to run and chase cold leads and opportunities. Let me ask a couple more questions.
Yes, sir.
What do you think really makes a difference for agents to go from, because most agents fail?
Yes, sir.
How long have you been a real estate agent?
Oh, I guess, 6 or 7 years, I think. It's been a while.
I think when I looked it up, I thought I said 7, but I didn't want to say it wrong. 7 years, you're already at like the 95% because most agents don't sell anything. And when they do, they're dropping out after 2 or 3 years because they can't sell enough to compensate themselves enough to live.
Right.
So obviously that's a testimony of success for you. What makes the difference? Because I promise you, even your brokerage, you probably have 80% of the agents that are not selling, just like most brokerages.
Yeah.
And then the other 20% are still alive and selling and making money. What separates you from what they're doing? How did you make it?
Well, good is this. Before I became an actual agent, I was actually an investor as well. So the fact is, I know how to talk to the buyers and the sellers, the investors. And I got one investor, I dealt with him on several properties, and he referred me to another one of his family members. And they know I'm not going to lie to him. Art's going to shoot straight from the hip. He's going to be honest. If I tell you that 2 + 2 equals 4, 2 + 2 equals 4. There's no other way about it. If I tell you need to do X, Y, Z for a property, this is what you got to do. And the thing is, I will tell people, hey, if I need to hold your hand the entire process, I'll be right there with you. It's not a problem. Whatever question you have, I may answer. But what separates me, the thing is, I like real estate just like you do. I love seeing a house that looked like it could have been in a horror movie to now it's on Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous.
Yeah.
Now, of course, I'm not putting gold faucets and chandeliers in the house.
But you're removing the chainsaw guys.
Yeah, exactly.
You're getting them out of there.
Exactly. I saw one house that, if you looked inside of it, you thought it was a crime scene.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. But everyone else would freak out. I'm like, okay, we can do this. We can do this here. We can do that. That's going to look good. We're going to make this. And then a lot of the contractors that I deal with the same people every time. You know why? It builds trust, rapport, communication. I know how they work. They know how I pay. And they know every time I call them, I'm not calling them to talk about the weather. I'm calling them because I have work for them.
Oh, yeah.
They know that every time I call them, Art's calling to put money in my pocket. Let me answer that phone call. So
yeah, it's a clean referral. Absolutely. There's probably, let's say, and there's probably 100 things, but there's probably 5 core things that agents add as a value add to the general population buying and selling homes. Some obvious things. We know the customary ways of doing things in order to get the maximum benefit. We know the answers to those things. We know what the market looks like. There's certainly immediate value add. We write contracts. We know what the contracts say, and we know how it's going to impact the process and the buyer and the seller. But, the number one thing, and you mentioned this, is I believe, and no one ever talks about this, but I think the greatest thing that real estate agents provide is it separates the buyer and the seller. Okay. And what happens is, and you mentioned it in a different way, what you were talking about is you speak their language and you can communicate with them effectively. It's because you're in the business, you've done the business, you know how to do flips, you know how to do rentals, you understand, and you can talk their language, and then you can talk their language in a way that they're going to understand and be able to move forward. Buyers and sellers are talking completely different languages, and they have competing interests that make it impossible for them to work together.
Right.
So I always feel like the greatest benefit is agents separate the buyers and the sellers in order for us to facilitate and make a deal work. Because if I said what my buyer says or my seller says to that other buyer, they would be like, hell no, you're fired.
Exactly.
I'm not taking your offer.
Yeah.
And they would all do that. So we have to filter out the emotion and just focus on the facts, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like I do a lot of that as a part of the process. Do you have anything else that you think you'd like to share? Is something that you're really passionate about or excited about in real estate?
I like helping first time. I love it when I can hand over the keys to a first time home buyer. I say, hey, congratulations, you did it. And also, I always tell people, okay, you need to believe in yourself. If you have people, and let's be honest about it, we all have people in either our sphere of influence, families, friends, that say, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that. My friend, he did it, it didn't work for him, so it's not going to work for you. Yeah. I tell people, listen, that's your family, you love them. But at the same time, don't let anyone tell you that you can't do it. So you have to have faith in yourself and believe in yourself that you can do it. So when I give someone the keys to the new house, I say, congratulations, there you go. Now also with that being said, you and I both know a 30-year note, and this is fun. I love different apps, broadcasting names, but there's some apps when you plug in the dollar amount of the house, the down payment, the interest rates, and do a 30-year note, it tells you, hey, this is what your payment's going to be. But I try to let the buyers know, hey, listen, if your payment's $1,000, if you can pay a little bit more and have that go directly to the principal, you can pay your house off that much quicker. And then also, I've given them a real life example of something that I personally done, where I took a 30-year note and went down to, I think, 14 by paying more. So now that property is paid for. The money comes in, that's all profit. Because let's say, and for example, if the house is $100,000, over 30 years, we paid over $300,000 for that house. So you bought the house 3 times over. And you don't think about that. And the bank, hey, they love it. Thank you very much. I said, listen, would you rather go ahead and have maybe $150,000 still in your account? Yeah, okay, this is what you're going to do. So I like helping people out. I love making sure that people have a roof over their head. And not everyone is meant to be a homeowner or wants to be a homeowner because of there are responsibilities. For example, you've been lucky you have 4 children, correct?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So the minute you became a father on child number 1, your life changed. You're more so on 2, 3, and 4. At the same time, so it wasn't just about you, it was about making sure that all 4 of your children, number 1, had a good foundation, had a roof over their head, and that you were taking care of them not only as a man, but also as a father. And you did that. And another thing for me personally, I was married, got divorced. It's good that you have to have someone who supports you, because you can't have your spouse being a negative Nelly saying, oh, no, you can't do that. I don't think we should do that. Fast forward 20 years, you're like, man, I really should have bought those properties. 20 years are gone. You got divorced. Those properties are gone. One of my contractors, had two of them, both of them, hey, I want properties. Okay. You want properties? This is what you need to do. Start putting some money aside, and you don't need a whole lot of money. You don't need a money tree in your backyard or $1 million in the bank. We can go to tax sale.
Man, great conversation. I appreciate you, Art. A lot of good insights. I think you and I have a lot of things in common. You're having a successful business there in Central Texas. I think you would be an excellent agent for anyone that calls you. How would a person find you? What's a good way to connect with you? And how would they be able to connect with you?
That's too easy. Hold that thought. So, of course, I'm on Facebook, Art Vales, TX for Texas Realtor. And you can also find me on Instagram and also Twitter at Art_Vales_TX_Realtor. My email address is art.vales, V as in Victor, ALES, at Villa, V as in Victor, YLA.com. And can I give my phone number also?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Area code 254-285-1454. Now, if you call, if I don't recognize the number, shoot me a text. Hey, this is so-and-so. I saw you on the podcast with Shaune Corbett. Great information. I want to be able to work with you. And I'll definitely reach back out. Now, also, Shaune, did you mention I got 2 properties out there? I got this foreclosure. That's a great deal. Would I give you information on that as far as maybe the addresses, or when we send it to you in a separate email? How do you want to do that?
We're going to this is more timeless.
Okay.
So, yeah, specific properties won't help you much here. What I want to do is create a place for you to be able to take this podcast, and then you're going to share it. We're going to be able to collaborate and share it. Man, those are great ways to connect with you, Art. Please reach out to him. We are definitely in the Central Texas area. He is a wealth of knowledge, especially first-time homebuyers and investors. Really got you covered. I'm going to close this one out. I appreciate all your time, and it was a very good conversation. I look forward to the next one that we do. We'll share our contacts, and we'll be able to connect elsewhere. I appreciate you, Art. Thank you.
Hey, sir, thank you very much. Have a great day. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk again.
That wraps up another episode of Real Estate Success DFW. I hope you're leaving with new insights that push your real estate career forward. If you enjoyed the show, please be sure to subscribe, leave a review, or share it with fellow agents who's ready to succeed. And if you're interested in working together or have any questions, I'd love to hear from you. Reach out to me directly. My personal phone is 214-228-0383. Let's connect and make real estate success happen together. Until next time, keep pushing forward. I'm Shaune Corbett, and this is the Real Estate Success DFW. Have a high-performance week.